Oh, hello. This one's going to be a weird one, a rambly one, a long one, a bit of a philosophical one, a bit of an introspective and reflective one, um, about painting Warhammer. There's a blue wizard on the screen, which, if you stick around right the way to the end of the video, I'll explain what that's about. Um, why do we paint miniatures? I guess the first way to approach this question is time. Broadly speaking, for most people, they have three chunks of time, right? You go to work and do the work stuff, and depending on your mentality, you might go to work and just do the things that are mission critical. You know, this is the list of things I have to get down in order to keep my job, to pay for my housing and heat and food and stuff. Um, Other days, on good days, you try and do things to make things better, to make things work well, to work to the best of your abilities, to try and actually take pride in what you're doing. And that's personally I strive to be at work, right? But you don't always hit the mark. And then you go home and you do home stuff, you know. Spent a big chunk out of today helping my stepson bake a cake, even though basically a hindrance when it comes to baking a cake. But it's just what you do when you're a dad. You get involved with stuff that isn't the stuff that you want to do. It's the stuff that they want to do. You know, try and make sure that I read to Penny more, and make sure she knows what a book is, because I keep reading things in the educational press about little kids going to primary school not knowing what a book is, and that's kind of depressing, right? And then you got all the other stuff that just comes with being a human and to live, and you know, MOTs, doctor's appointments. I've got to phone someone to remove some bulky waste from my house, you know. Try and keep yourself alive, try and keep yourself fit and fed and washed and groomed, and you know, in packets of cornflakes and clean underpants and all those things. And when all that stuff's sort of squared away, right? When you square away the work stuff and the life stuff, you're left with the gap. And the gap is the precious kind of third chunk of your time, and it will vary. You know, if you don't have kids, you probably have more personal time. Um, and if you have a job that's less demanding, then you probably have more personal time, but perhaps less money to fund stuff to do in that personal time. But however your life is set up, you've probably got those three categories. You know, maybe your home life category doesn't have kids in it, but you have to visit your parents, things like this. And that third slot for me, that other stuff right now, it's all orbits around Warhammer, right? You've got your work stuff, your family stuff, and then in my life, it's basically work stuff, family stuff, and Warhammer stuff. No, it's not just painting Warhammer, right? It's doing this, it's pontificating about Warhammer on the internet. Occasionally, I play War, and I'm using Warhammer in the generic here. It includes Shatterpoint and things like that. It's 3D printing things for Warhammer. It's talking about Warhammer, but it's all basically Warhammer, right? So those are you got your work stuff, your family stuff, and you know, work, home, Warhammer. Those are the three spheres, right? I don't know how some people have multiple hobbies. They're like, oh, I like Warhammer, and I also like golf, and it's like, how do you fit? Because now you've got a fourth bucket, right? So you can't slice down the work bucket or slice down. I mean, you can, but morally, you won't slice down those first two buckets. So you're slicing down it. The more kind of hobbies, I guess, that you take on, the less time you have to spend on any one of them, right? Unless you're fabulously wealthy and then you don't have to go to work, and that's, again, that can work for you, right? But by and large, it helps me to think of these three buckets, and so I'm sitting here thinking, well, what am I doing with my most precious bucket, and why is it this? And so I guess the answer, I'm answering the question in the YouTube video at the start of the video, which isn't the right way to do it. But I guess the answer for me as to why I do this stuff is to unwind. More than anything else, I find painting things meditative. Painting and modelling is basically the king of all the other bits, the gaming and that's all secondary to me, to the hobby bit. You do the hobby, and then you play the games because there's more community there, and that's something to do with the miniatures. But I like to paint these collections of models. It gives me joy, it gives me joy, or it should. I've got a quote here from a song that I found about 6-7 months ago called "Model Ships" by Luke Westaway, and it's a song about the joy of building model ships. And I'm not going to read it to you, it's on the screen there. Some of this is just part of the song. Some of the lines in this really speak to me. It's the idea that you have something there and it's to distract you, but it also gives you something to, talk about people with on the internet and go to events and meet people and do things, and that's really important, I think. But the hobby is the keystone. Like, I love tournaments. I'm a big advocate for going to Kill Team tournaments at the moment, precisely because it adds that more social. Yeah, Discord's great, and you can be in a painting Discord and a painting community, which is just about painting. But, like, playing the game offers far more opportunity for physical meetups. And there's one thing that the pandemic really taught me, it's that going and physically meeting people is really very important, I think. And that's why I became more of a gamer post-COVID than I've ever been before, for sure. But for me, the hobby is definitely the keystone. If the models were pre-painted, I'd probably quit the whole thing. It wouldn't work for me. It wouldn't work for my mindset. It wouldn't give me that thing that I need, which is something to go and sit and do in my little room by myself to shut out the rest of the world for 5 minutes. And so, in the context of all of that, external validation really shouldn't be the point. But I sort of crave it. And I sort of crave this idea that I can see myself continuously improving. And I can't, even though all that's true, that it's for me, and I've talked before, there's a video on my channel as well, why Warhammer is important to my mental health, and I've talked more about that as well. But I can't help conceiving of painting as a journey with a goal, with this concept of continuous improvement. And maybe that's bad, right? Maybe you don't have to constantly get better at stuff. But I think it's a very human thing. You take something up because it's fun, whether it's painting miniatures or playing golf or running up and down, and you want to see continuous improvement over time. I think almost everybody that you speak to that has a hobby, whatever the hobby might be, on some level, part of it is the sensation of continuously improving at it. And I feel like I am struggling, I think, to continuously improve at the moment. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the miniatures that I've painted. This is going to be a whistle stop tour. Is that the turn of phrase? Is that the idiom? Of things that I've painted. Now, the first thing on the screen here is the earliest miniature. I don't have this anymore. It's the earliest miniature that I have a photograph of. I think I must have painted it in about 2006, which is when Metal Witch Hunters came out. Might have been later than that. It by no means the first model I painted. I started the hobby in 1997, right? But we didn't have digital cameras back then, What's notable, though, is this is the first miniature that I thought was really good. Conversion, it's the Metal Celestine with wings from, I want to say, a Bretonian Pegasus. There's a sword from Plastic Empire Wizard box, I want to say, for Warhammer Fantasy. You got a scenic base that I crafted myself with a sort of converted injured guardsman gazing up in wonder at the saint. And at the time, I thought this was really good. I remember showing this off on a PowerPoint in, about 14, 15 years ago. It must have been after university. But when I was doing my teacher training certificate, we had to do like give a lesson, but the lesson is about anything. It's about something that you care about, a hobby, an interest, whatever. But you had to do a PowerPoint and stand up and give one of the early things we had to do and give the lesson to the other training teachers. So obviously I talked about Warhammer, and this is one of the models that I showed off then. And it's funny because to me now this looks utterly rubbish, terrible, awful. But at that time, I still remember, to a group of normies, people that had never seen a Warhammer before, they were dead impressed. And I try and remember that stuff. Yeah, and then this is something that I know I painted this in 2016. Still got this on the shelf. This is Canon S. Viridian. Big fan of Canon S. Viridian. Big fan of the original John Blanche painting. Actually, it's just up there above my desk. And that real favourite painting of mine. Really do like that John Blanche painting. For me, that Canon S. Viridian, I know a lot of people don't like it. For me, the Canon S. Viridian, this is the Battle 2nd Edition Codex, that John Blanche painting, that is Warhammer. That's 40k, that's what it should be like. That sort of silly, I guess, but not silly. But obviously silly, but then taking itself so seriously that it can look you in the eye with it, right? It's silly, but not in a nudge, wink, carry on style silly. It's silly, but we're going to paint every hair on the back of this little rat that's running across the foreground in exquisite detail, right? It's silly, but it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense, but it sort of does if you squint. That's 40k. I don't think this model is much better painted than the one on the previous slide. I mean, this is what comes from painting in a vacuum. There's not much improvement. I have a second one of these, brand new, in box, right? It's right where I can see it. There you go. Canon S. Viridian. £15. You wouldn't get a miniature for £15 anymore. I bought this when I realised how poorly painted the previous one was. Right, she's right in there, fine cast and everything. Right, and one day I will go back and I will, with all I have learned, and I will paint Canon S. Viridian, and I will get the hazard stripes on the bolt pistol looking better than they do there, and I will make part of her face not be on her armour, making her look like she's got a double chin. Right, and I will paint it up to the best of my ability. But today is not that day. Today is not that day. So in 2015, I got a name check Duncan. 2015 was when GW started to upload Duncan's videos to their channel, and I'm a big Duncan stan, right? I will praise Duncan till the end of days. Speaking as a teacher, Duncan has a really good way of modelling, explaining, mentoring, and I know some people view his painting as divisive because it can be a bit of a trap. Like, you learn to paint the Duncan way and then you that's how you paint, and it becomes hard to progress, and maybe that's precisely what's happened to me. But you've seen two examples of miniatures that I painted in the pre-Duncan era, and you've seen how poor they were for what they were. And so I think it's really important that he came on with his, really simple stuff, like thin your paints, but rather than just snarling thin your paints at somebody and walking away, patiently explaining, and the mantra wasn't thin your paints, the mantra was, it's too thin coats. It's you put no one had ever said that to me before. You put the first coat of paint on, it's gonna look awful, right? You let it dry completely, you put the second coat of paint on, and sometimes a third, a fourth, you know, if I paint orange or something, it could be 5, 6, 7 coats of paint just to get that solid coat. Nobody had ever explained that to me before. Nobody, you know, people just, didn't you paint? Because that was feedback. That was what you had to try and improve. That was, you know, it was just people shouting at you on the internet, or very occasionally you get a painting lesson from like a Games Workshop manager. But by the time you're an adult, you know, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, yes, that still counts as an adult. No GW manager's going to come and sit you down and teach you how to paint. You've kind of had your chance while you were a kid, you know? So, name check Duncan, because I think it's important. So this is something I painted in 2017. This is a model I'm still really happy with, actually. The White King. You know, he's on my shelf back there in the cabinets, sitting there happily. And I think there's nothing wrong with this. I think he looks really, really good. There are little bits that I would improve. Yeah, I put a bit more work into the face, the skull. I'd do more, like, get more dark brown in there for the lowlights, and I'd take it up to closer to white in the highlights for sure, right? But in terms of the cloth, the bat wing, you know, the rust on the armour, the fact that the armour looks really grimy and dirty and has got that kind of central highlight going down the middle of the breastplate, I think this looks really cool. And I'd be happy to... I will, in fact, be using this part of my spearhead this year. We're painting loads of stuff, and the idea is that we're using loads of stuff that we paint up. Everything else in that spearhead is going to be painted this year. But if you look at the spearhead that they announced with the new Soulblight Gravelord stuff, it's got this guy in. And I'm not going to paint a new one. I'm going to use this one. I think there's nothing wrong with him. I'm really still proud of this miniature, which is almost part of the problem, maybe. I think I should be looking at a miniature in 2017 and going, wow, I could do so much better now. And I look at this fella and I think I could sit and repaint him, and what would I gain? You know? So I moved down to Essex about 2014. Wasn't about 2017 that I, at that point, was really, really good friends with Zimbad, my work colleague, who's also a really good painter and gamer and a great friend. And he's always been trying to push me along on a painting journey in little ways, trying to get better, you know. Feeds into the continuous improvement mantra a little bit. But with his own spin and take on it. And I remember he gifted me these Doctor Who. Like, I think the game is now totally defunct. I think it was a Warlord were doing it. And I painted them. I'm really pleased with the way these came out. They're on my shelf still of interesting looking miniatures. You know, really interesting to develop some skills that I now use when I paint my Shatterpoint stuff, of looking at like stills from the TV show and trying to do things like paint Clara's jumper there. You know, a pretty simple piece of clothing like an M&S grey jumper, but it's not something that they will put on a miniature that was designed for painting, because it's actually really hard to get that to look good. And a little bit of, because you can find with the Warlord Doctor Who sculpts, if you looked, you could find the exact stills that they had used to sculpt the miniature, right? So, you know, just like the little bit of pattern blouse coming out the bottom, you wouldn't get that on something that had been designed to be a thing that you painted. You only see that because it's something that's designed after an IP. And I do think it's important to have a palette cleanser every now and again. Especially as at this point, right, I was only painting Sisters or Undead. I was doing those two big army games, and that was about it. So this was something different. Lots of work with black as well, and trying to get blacks to look different on a miniature and stand out from each other. I think palette cleansers are important, yeah. So Kill Team 2018 launched, and I thought I'd throw these guys up. Do you know, I haven't always painted, and I have a little bit of reputation now for being somebody that paints things to try and look how they look on the boxes, and I wasn't always that way. I tried to paint these. I've never actually really liked how I kind of thought they didn't really fit in the GW universe, and this was kind of a way of exploring that. I was trying to make something that didn't fit in the GW universe. So the bases are very much very grubby, but very quite detailed. Like um, they're very 40k. You know, they're the urban bases that they released. I think they're Necromunda maybe or something. But then the tower sitting on top, it was like they were sprayed blue, right? And then they were the white was brushed on over the blue. You know, to give them a kind of uh, Delft pottery or willow pattern or whatever you want to call it. But, you know, the plates in your grandma's house. And then actually, it doesn't quite come through on the thing. These have got a gloss varnish on them as well. But the miniatures were varnished separately to the bases. I was I tried really hard actually to present something that was really weird. And nobody likes these miniatures. Nobody, like, you show to people and they look at them and they go, huh. I think that was a formative experience in its way. It was, I tried to really experiment with something, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. I talk about this later on. It's almost like it was my first foray into one weird trickism in hindsight. Like, there's always you see this on the internet, like, oh, one weird trick to do this thing, and you don't have to do the hard miles, right? And I think sometimes with painting, you fall into this. Well, I'll do this weird stuff, and it'll look so weird that people will be like, "Wow, that's amazing!" And actually, secretly, I'll have just done something really simple and stupid, and I'll kind of get away with it and pull a fast one. But nobody ever had a positive word to say about these. Really, they were just like, "Yeah, okay, fine, you've done a thing." But it was my attempt to flex a creative vision. But I think they were too weird. I don't know. They are under the bed. They have not left. They have not remained on the shelves. Um, I did some Dark Eldar as well around the same time. Very much a reaction to the previous thing, right? So people are like, oh, I don't like them very much. And then it's like, okay, well, I'll just do Dark Eldar and I'll do them. These are like the what I think, Cult of Strife? No, or the whatever it is, the box art, the Cabal of the ones that the heavy metal team do for the boxes, right? They're just the Dark Eldar. They're in the Dark Eldar colours, and you paint them with the paints that have named after the Dark Eldar, right? They look pretty good. Like, I can do better now, right? I'm not saying these are really good. Like, those whips make me cry. They look stupid. But I was much happier with these at the time compared to the Tau, and it was very much the decision to paint them this way was very much a reaction to the way that the people around me and online and in the local store as well, because we actually played Kill Team 2018 in the local shop. Like, people just didn't really like them stealth suits, so whatever. So yeah, I was emulating the box art style a little bit in terms of the color choices, not in terms of my skill level, but in terms of the color choices. But yeah, I think that you can see like the faces and things. You can see the Duncan influence here, starting to creep in. These are definitely better, right, than the things that I showed at the start. They still look a bit weird. The skin tone is a bit muddy, right, but they're definitely better than the things that I started off the slideshow with. Then the Plastic Sisters of Battle hit in 2020, and these are some of the first Sisters of Battle I painted. The central one, based on the Karl Kapinski artwork, actually came out before the rest of the Sisters. And I essentially think my painting's not really moved on in the last 5 years. I think up until this point, you can see a linear progression of, oh, this happened, that happened, and this happened, and that happened. And now it's like, yeah, this is just how I paint. And I could be really happy with these if other people thought they were good. Right? I could be really happy with these if other people thought they were good. I know the bases are a bit pants. I do better bases now. That's one area where I've developed. There are little bits of skills that I've developed. I look at these miniatures and I go, yeah, I'm really proud to own those. But then other people just look at them and go, eh. And it winds me up on a level that I know that it shouldn't. And I'll discuss and reflect more at the end of the presentation. Okay. And then, so this is another one. 2022 painted Eidolon. for my Emperor's Children army. I've not shown a lot of my Emperor's Children. I mean, everything's much of a muchness at this sort of stage, right? And I was really, really proud of Eidolon. You know, things like that little shine point on the lower lip. I look at it and go, that's really cool. Entered Eidolon into a an open painting competition, not like a Golden Dean painting competition. What is now Legends of Paint, but before they'd really codified what Legends of Paint was, because I thought it was that good. I'm obviously I was delusional. It's not that great a paint job. It's really better than anything else I was painting at the time. You know, the purple arm was really quite like flat and plain when it comes right down to it. You know, there's a wash, there's a layer, there's all the other things, but I can see that they look a bit flat, right? I thought the metallics came out really well though. Like, there are things on here that I still think look really good, and it's a miniature that I have, a miniature I use, a miniature that I'm quite proud of. But again, it just didn't move people the way that I'd hoped it would. One of my first really disappointments where I've gone, wow, this is amazing, and I've shown to people, it's that feeling where you're like, I'm really, really happy with this. You show it to people and they sort of go, oh, that's all right, and you're like, oh, come on, come on. I don't know what it is. I just need something. So we jump forward in time a little bit, right? So now we're in Kill Team, previous edition of Kill Team 21. And I'd done a few different teams for Kill Team that are not particularly better than Eidolon or the Sisters that I've already shown. And I saw that there was a painting competition happening at all the Kill Team events. And this was my first real attempt to do something that would potentially do something in that painting competition, where I was actually trying to elevate my my standard. So this was my first real attempt to elevate my standard. So I thought, well, okay, I will try and elevate my standard by doing some freehand camo, right? Because that's obviously extra effort. It shows extra skill, you know. And I'll get my faces dialed in. And I've been doing quite good faces now for a while. These faces look really good, right? And I'll try really hard on the freehand camo, and I'll try really hard do a little bit on the plasma with a little tiny bit of OSL coming off the plasma, and I just tried really, really, really a lot. And again, they didn't do anything. They didn't nobody really commented on them. They didn't. I would love to come third or something in one of these. Not a painting contest, but like a tournament, like who's got the best painting kill team at the tournament. That's the level of accolade that I'm sort of aiming for, you know, to be up there. The one bit of feedback I did get was the bases are very, very poor on these, which I have acted on, right? When I get feedback, especially when it's actionable feedback like that, I do try and take it on board and do something with it. So I did actually. These have got better. These have at least got some tufts now, and some bits and pieces on the bases. I was trying to just make them look like they're in the desert, and so for my money, deserts are flat. But like sometimes, and this is one of the hard things to grasp in miniature paintings. Sometimes you have to paint things wrong in order to show more painting, if that makes sense. Like, boring example: if you have like a Lehman Russ tank, it's very realistic just to kind of spray it grey. Paint the tracks and the rivets and stuff, because if you look at like World War II tanks, they were just grey or green, right? Or beige, okay? But actually, if you want to impress people, you have to do things that are unrealistic, like camo on a tank or similar. So it's one of those things. So 2023 and the Lamenters, and this is like a millstone around my neck, right? So I tried really hard with these Lamenters, and I followed some guides from, he doesn't have a YouTube channel up anymore, but Darren Latham works for Games Workshop, one of the best painters there is for my money. If you go follow Daz's Instagram, it's like it's the bee's knees, and I tried inexpertly to follow one of his guides out painting yellow and follow some of the tools and techniques, and you can see on the captain here that for the first time ever that I've tried to actually glaze layers of paint across the armor panels to achieve a color gradient on a flat surface. Whereas up until this point, up until the Lamenters, basically my paint scheme has always been, pretty well. You base coat, you wash, you layer back up, leaving the washed bits visible in the recesses, and then you put on maybe as many as 3 highlights, and that was basically it. And that's very much the Duncan Rhodes way, right? And it looks really good, and I'm really happy with the results. I mean, if you go back all the way back to these, you can see that on here, right? You can see that the cloth is a layer, a wash, a couple of highlights. You can see that the armor is there's no wash on the armor; it's black, but you see a layer and then 3 highlights, right? I think they look really good. I think they look really, really good. But this is obviously something else now. It's a new paradigm. And as a kill team, they didn't do anything, even though they had a display based on old kill team. But the captain, I took the Legends of Paint and I got a bronze pin, and I'm really pleased about that. That's like one of the only time I've won a painting accolade. So, on the one hand, kill team didn't get anywhere with the hobby competition with the kill team for them, but with the single miniature, picked up the bronze pin. I was really pleased. So now I need to explain this. So at the same time as painting those, I was still obviously going back and doing my large army projects, and these I think are still painted to the same standard I was painting Sisters 5 years ago, because I've got an army and I can't suddenly start painting them differently. And of course it's black power armor, and it's really hard to implement lessons learned from a miniature like that on a black miniature, right? And this is where I've really come to a realization about choosing your projects. If I was to really want to paint Sisters really, really well and make a Sisters army that really, really looked beautiful, I'd probably pick Bloody Rose, right? The red ones. Because I think I could paint them to a standard where they would look much better and be much more visually arresting than these. But I've got behind me, almost finished as a collection, thousands and thousands of points of Our Martyred Lady, and I prefer the colour scheme of Our Martyred Lady. But it's definitely true to say that black is a colour that, like, black power armor is one of those things that you can get it to look pretty good pretty easily, but I don't think you can excel with it the way you could do with a yellow power armor or a blue power armor or a green power armor or a red power armor. But I'm kind of stuck with the choices that I've made now, right, when it comes to my large army projects, and I like these models. I think they're good enough. The world doesn't think they're good enough. Yeah. The reflection part's coming, don't worry. So Banshees. The Banshees were the next thing that I tried to paint really, really well. And these are, like, believe me, these are painted to the same high, time-consuming, pain in the backside standard as the Lamenters. Now, maybe I executed it worse, because white's harder to do that on than yellow, right? Maybe it's because the thing that I picked to do didn't have any examples of freehand on. Because they've got I did the Yanari heads, right, but they've all got their mouths covered, so you haven't, the leader hasn't, but most of the rest of them have, so you haven't got that opportunity to do something with the faces, where I do a pretty good face generally. So again, I think with the Banshees it was that thing of, it worked really well in my head, but maybe they weren't a great model for showing off the things that I'm good at. Maybe when I'm painting the things that I'm good at, I need to have bare heads, and somewhere where I can put some freehand stuff, maybe. Because I really liked how the checks came out on the Lamenters. I'm really proud of that. And the little heart and the blood drop as well. I think that it all ticks a box, right? So then Shatterpoint. Started painting some Shatterpoint. So we got the lessons learned from doing those Doctor Who minis way back when, and looking at reference material and trying to paint stuff to look like stuff. And you can see on the cloak here, I think, on Count Dooku, that starting to do more blending. There's not like the stark edge highlights on the cloth. There's a little bit of an edge highlight on the cloth, but if we go all the way back to, I mean, a bit on the sisters here, you can see that I'm edge highlighting cloth. If we go back to all the way back, right to where is he? This guy, you can see normally I do there's quite a neon edge highlight. I don't think that looks bad. It's a stylistic choice. It makes him look creepy. But I tried to do more of a blend on there, I guess, and it came out again black. Right, is it's gone from being my comfortable place to my uncomfortable place as I've improved from painting. In painting, I basically gone from going, oh, yummy black to, oh, I have to do black. Because I think black's really easy. Like I say, black's really easy to do pretty well, but really hard to do very well. So I try to employ some lessons learned from proper painting. There are things that I wish I'd been brave enough to do with Dooku, like some object source lighting with the lightsabers, but I was so chuffed with how it come out, I wasn't about to start dry brushing all over him like a mentalist. And then these really pushed me in a weird direction. So I did these Magna Guard, and if you go and do I did and watch Revenge of the Sith and go to the part where Obi-Wan's fighting General Grievous and the Magna Guard come out, and you pause that a lot and get a proper good look at them, they got kind of this chipped navy blue paint. So to replicate that, I sort of sponged on the chipped metal paint over the silver and then highlighted back with the silver colour. And I thought it looked really good. And actually, and I crave that positive feedback. I got so much positive feedback from different people on the Discord about these miniatures. People really loved them and said, wow, these are some of the best things you ever painted. And I'm like, really? All I did was stick a bit of sponge and smack it into them. And everyone was like, wow, no, these are great. These are really, really good. And I'm like, wow, okay. Nobody, I got more enthusiastic praise for these, right, than I ever did for any of this stuff, which is really interesting. So, okay, that went into the databanks. Night Lords. So this was my next big, again, those kill team painting competitions, and I'm thinking, okay, what do I need to do? Well, obviously I need my display base to be covered in skulls. I thought I'll hoodwink people. I'll get votes because people will vote for it because they go, wow, all those skulls are cool. I did try and paint the models really well as well, Proper painting, where there's a gradient of colours on the armour panel, is harder to do on dark colours. And so blue is a dark colour. It's not as hard as black. And I tried. But they didn't come out quite as good as the Lamentas. But I did try and do the freehand lightning on them as well. I tried to do it sparingly because I thought doing too much of it would be overwhelming. But then other people have done more of it on theirs, and I like theirs better. This is really the start of the era of just not feeling happy with my own stuff. Feeling that it doesn't actually live up to the high watermark of the Lamentas somehow. And maybe I just need to paint Lamentas or, I guess, Imperial Fists forever. And refine it that way, specifically through painting yellow. I tried really hard with I'd say I'm not trying to get sympathy or false praise. I'm just trying to express my exasperation because I feel exasperated at the moment. I feel exasperated with the hobby. And then the Brood Brothers were the next big thing. So this was my love letter to those Kazakin. I was like, well, look, people didn't like the Kazakin because they didn't like the bases, so fine. We'll do the bases. This is the nicest display board I've ever done. This was 3D printed and everything fits in really nicely. And we got weathering powders, we got barbed wire, we got a little mini vignette diorama thing here going on where the sniper slots down behind the sandbags and that. We got conversion work. We got the Magus is converted out of a Primaris Psyker. The fellow with his commissar hat, right? And then the Primus is kit bashed with an Imperial Guard officer, and of course we had a prize that Kazakin colour scheme on the KDM parts. The idea being that they were originally part of the same battle group or battalion, right? But these guys are forwards of the cult. I thought I did a really good job on the the flesh. Now, the varnish slightly bricked on these, just slightly, not enough to make them want to go in the bin, but they just became slightly like dull and cloudy when the varnish hit them, which was very upsetting to me. Nobody liked these. Nobody liked the paint job on these. Nobody even said boo about them, so alright. And in fairness, they probably did represent a step backwards, because I didn't even attempt to do, to give it its proper name, volumetric highlighting, but proper painting, that thing where a flat surface has a gradient of colour on it that isn't just the edges or, the details being picked out and painted. Didn't even try that anymore, because I got so hacked off with I did it on the Lamenters and nobody cared, did it on the Banshees, nobody cared, did it on the Night Lords, nobody cared, so fine, I'll try something else. Nope. Triumphs and Catherine, this one's thrown me for a loop, so I'm going to go for Legends of Paint again this year, just because I'm going to the Warhammer World Open Day, so I may as well take, it's any single Warhammer miniature, take in and enter, and see if I can get another bronze pin, right? Remember that the Mentor's captain got a bronze pin for me before. This is one of the things I painted last year that I was considering, but Zimbad said this is the one I should take. And I can't see it. To me, this is just another one of my sister's things that's painted in basically the same standard and style of 2022, which is the paint scheme and the paint job of, well, I like it, but nobody else will possibly care, right? There are things on this that I know I could have done better. Like, for example, the heart on the Valorous Heart stick is just silver paint with red contrast over it, which I could have done a bit more there. I could have painted a little heart and gradiented it and had dark and light and things, and I just sort of went, I just want to finish this project right now and get it off the table. Other bits came out really well. The fire in the Ebon Chalice looks really, really good. Really, really bright, really, really arresting. No, do you know, I'm sounding all sad. I'm mainly just tired, but I like this model. I just was confused when Zim said it's the best thing he painted last year. I'm like, is it? And I feel like, as I've written here, I'm concerned that I can't look at my own stuff and tell what's good and what's not. Because it doesn't tally. I'll do something that I don't really like and people will go, wow, that's amazing. I'll do something that I think is the best thing I've ever done and people will be like, eh. And I'm like, what? Maybe I need to go on an art appreciation course to learn what it is that you... I don't know. And it's apart from people I know, generally on the internet there are two kinds of feedback, and I'm very aware of this as well, because there are people who always praise everything, or always react with a thumbs up or a yeah, that looks great, but then you see them saying yeah, that looks great to things that you're like, well no, that's really, really, really bad. I see you're just one of these really positive people, really lovely people that says yeah, that's really good to everything. And then the other thing you get on the internet, not on my Discord, I hate to add, but on the internet, generally post things on Reddit, and people just say, Thin Paints sucks. It's the worst thing ever. And those are the only two. You never get the, oh, that's pretty good, but for your next one, have you considered, trying to limit your colour palette? Or what? I can't make up the advice for myself, because I don't know what the advice would be, but you never get that kind of, oh, yeah. I think the best thing I painted last year was Fulgrim. But I think I got really subtle shading into his cloak and stuff. I tried to get some subtle shading and stuff into his armour, but then he's so much gold trim on the armour that the eye doesn't focus on the purple panels. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's not good. Maybe the other one is better. Who knows? Other people have said that General Grievous was the best thing I painted, which I really struggled to see, because that's mostly just contrast with an edge highlight, because I couldn't work out how to paint his armour well. It's a bit more to it than that, but not by much. But anyway, I've since dropped this model. I had my organizer with my Shatterpoint stuff in, or some of my Shatterpoint stuff in, broke, and so it fell onto the ground. So he now has horrible and slightly superglue scars around his ankles where he's been repaired, which is sad. But anyway, can't take Grievous to Legends of Pain because he's not a GW model, so that's how they're running. Yeah. And then my current project, right, which this is half of them that I've finished, right? And I tried to revisit the tech. Everybody praised, remember, the Magnet Guard with the sponged on chips. I was like, oh, cool. I'll do that again on the armor. And then I'll try and do really good layering and shading and stuff on the skin and on the squigs and on other parts, to prove that I can paint. But I'll try and do the chip-in thing with the armor. And I'll also stick some freehand. So two of them have got checks. They got checks on their loincloths. They got some checks on their rockets. They got some checks on their grenades. And I'll try and do the bases really well. So I'm ticking off all the things that in my mind people have said to me over the years. So the bases are really good. We got the freehand on there. We're going to do the skin really nice and properly and proper painty. And then we're going to do this chipping thing that people get mad for last time. And now it's like everyone that I've posted this and people are just like, yeah, they look alright. And at first when I posted them with the chipping stuff on, people were like, oh, what have you done? And I'm like, I was trying to do this thing that you all said was really good. Oh, well, it looked good on the Magnet Guard, doesn't look good on these. Like, oh, all right. It's hard. It's hard. And so now I'm slogging through the other half of the project, and I'm already thinking, well, what's the, I've got another that many orcs to do, and then I've designed and printed a display base there. You see pictures on the Discord with sort of pseudo Octarius terrain in the back and little holes. And I'm going to do them. I'm going to try and to my own self be true to an extent, but like already in the back of my mind, it's like, oh, come on, Phil, people don't like them. You're going to take them out. And I've already entered half of the team into a kill team painting competition where actually the competition wasn't as stiff as it usually is because the Knots kill team guys weren't there, and even there didn't even manage to get like a third place. So it's like, well, I don't know. I just want to get on. I realise that nobody can cast a magic spell and say, now you're better at painting. I want to understand what it is that I'm doing wrong. Now, okay. So some of you probably, especially if Major Tom is here, or people like him, and I love the engagement, guys, but when people comment and they're clearly halfway through the video, I'm sure people have already written this stuff. Part of me, those of you that know me well know that I read and try and practice sort of stoic philosophy as and when I can. I'm not very good at it, right? But I realise on some level that I shouldn't care what other people think, and that I should just paint for me and be happy, right? And the fact that I'm failing to delight others shouldn't get to me to the extent that it is, but nevertheless, it gets to me. To that extent, and I think, and this is where I'm going to get really whingy and introspective for a minute, but bear with me. I kind of want to be good at something, and I'm adequate as a teacher. I don't get the best grades in the universe, but also I don't get the worst. Like, it's adequate, and I think I'm pretty adequate as a family man and a father, right? And this YouTube channel is not like, again, it makes me happy in a way, but it's not like I've not got like 10,000, and 10,000 would even be a low number of subscribers, but I've got like barely more than 2,000 subs, and it's like, obviously this isn't like a really excellent either, right? And I'm not very good at the game. Like, I never win when I'm at home playing against my wife or Zimbad. Like, I literally never win. And then I go to tournaments. And yeah, I did 50-50 at the last tournament, but only by losing my first 3 games. I don't feel good at anything, which is kind of a downer, I guess. And so the thing that I'm kind of picking on is the thing, because to be good at YouTube, or to be good at playing games, or to be good at teaching children and getting them the exam grades, this is just the way my mind thinks. To be good at all those things requires a variable in that it requires other people. It requires your opponent, or the students, or the the people on YouTube to do something. And I think, well, those are the most frustrating kinds of things to try and work on. But painting miniatures, that's just me alone in a room with my brushes. So I should be able to improve at that because that's just me. But I can't seem to action it, and it's frustrating. I don't aspire. I have got some advice from Zimbad and from Gimiak. I'm going to go on for that into that in a minute as well. I don't aspire to winning or even entering like a golden deep, like a painting competition. Beyond like the Legends of Paint one, because that's an open competition, it's a bit different. It's like everybody that meets the certain standard gets the bronze or the silver or the gold. I'm never going to enter a competitive painting competition, but it would be nice to do like a best painted at Kill Team. That's my aspiration, is to come third at a Kill Team best painted. That's the level, and it feels like that should be achievable, but then it's just, it's a struggle. Advice. So I have had advice, right? I'm going to talk about this blue wizard now as well, because I've moaned about this stuff on the live stream before, and people want to help. People are lovely, and I've had specific advice from two really, really great painters, or two people that I regard as really, really great painters. So first is Gimiak, a gentleman lives over in Poland, is one of the best painters on our Discord, right? And he came on, did a voice call with me, and he gave me a very powerful reality check, first of all. He was like, well, you're near the top of tabletop standard. You probably are a better painter than most people that I see, on the server or my local Warhammer club or whatever. But the thing you have to understand is to get much better from where you are, you're going to paint fewer miniatures, because you're going to have to take more time over each model. So his big thing really was about time. And then other practical tips like to think deeply about light sources, right? And where the light's coming from. And not just do, like, if you're going to do volumetric highlighting, to be mindful of where's the light coming from. Is it coming from the side? Is it coming from above? Is it coming from the bottom? Whatever it's doing, and then do it that way. And that was his sort of take. And then Zimbad, my colleague and friend now of over a decade, right, had a different take. And his basic thing was, he thinks that I've got really over-reliant now on guides. And, like, for example, there's a video, it's a Darren Latham video about how to paint faces, that I will put on, because I've got it saved to my computer, even though his YouTube channel's been taken down. I'll put that on basically every time I paint a face. Not that I'm following it like word for word, I don't remember it, but I just it's almost like a comfort blanket. And so Zimbab wants me to get out of the habit of following like a lot of my painting now will be things like, well, if I'm doing brown leather, that's from the painting coach's guide on how to do Sisters of Battle, like how did he do the brown leather in there. And then I wanted to do orc skin, so I went to find Louise Sugden's like goth rocker video that she did for Warhammer TV, and just copied the skin parts from there. And then I wanted to do hazard stripes on my cables, so I went and found a guy that was doing stripy cables and copied that bit from there. So there's a lot of like stitching together resource from the internet in how I paint, and Zimbad thinks that's holding me back. And so he said to me to paint a miniature without any preconceived notions of what it looked like, and without a plan, and without looking online, and with it being a miniature that I was happy to ruin. That where there was no like, oh, this is one of my favourite models and it was really expensive. So I had some old Empire wizards knocking around. Actually, Mrs. Table spilt these, and they were in the sell pile to trying to flog them. And I thought, what, I'll grab those, I'll rescue those, and I'll paint at least one. So I painted this guy, this blue mage, and I just went in with a plan of I want to use the Sons of Horus green, because I think Sons of Horus green is a great colour. For his cloak, which actually ironically you can't see, but I'll show the back of him again at the end, and you'll see there. And then what colours go with that? Sort of the blue and the purple, and then I guess we've got to do a metallic, so we'll do bronze. I think that both Gimiak and Zimbad are speaking from a place of experience, wisdom, and kindness. I think they look at painting minis very differently. I think they're both basically given advice that's like, you think I paint well, you will paint more like me if you do this. And it's made me realise that people have, like, there is, like, good painting as a style that maybe I need to just find my own, like, because Zimbad classically, Zimbad's one of these painting as art people, and I think, he hasn't said this, but I think part of his thing is like, if I'm painting more somehow from my soul rather than copying things, it will be better in some way that I kind of think is slightly wooish, maybe, but, you know, like the soul and the feel of the piece and the things that... I don't view miniature painting as art, I view it as colouring in. And I always have, and I always kind of do, and it's the difference between colouring in with the right colours or just colouring in with whatever colours you fancy on the day, but it's still colouring in because you didn't sculpt them in. But I'm not trying to offend people that call it art. I view it as a technical skill, but maybe that's part of my barriers. Who knows? Who can say? One interesting little tidbit that I found while I was doing this and I was going through my archives is that in 2021 I apparently painted a very similar wizard to use in Cursed City. There was an extra character for Cursed City where if you bought the Cursed City novel, you got a character card in the back for Morval Albrecht. And I built and painted him. And then I looked at this picture and I looked at what I'd done recently and I looked at it and went, I mean, they're different. Which is better? Tell me in the comments which is better. I almost don't. I don't know. I did weird stuff with the skin tone on the one from Zimbad, and I kind of like the way the face and the arms have come out, right? And I'll probably do that again. I put like purple wash around the nose. I think that's come out reasonably well. But I don't know what other people think. Do I prefer the colours on the one on the right, where I was actually just doing the colours that I like? Yeah, probably. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. The fact that I can't look at them and go, I definitely like that one better is, I think, part of the problem. I feel like I can't judge my own stuff at the moment, and that's challenging for me. Well, we're finally wrapping up whatever this is. It's been nearly an hour of something. If you've sat through this, well done, you're a trooper. This is just self-indulgent pap. But hey, do you have any thoughts, advice, feedback, comments? Do tell. Yeah, I'm finding hobbying to be slightly joyless at the moment. And I don't know whether what I need to do is try and get over the fact that I think I should be better at it than I am, or try and get better at it. And if the answer is try and get better at it, then how? Is it bad, right? Do I need to just paint more things with random colours and not like try and make things look like other things? Or I don't know. Is it more to do with what Gimiak said? Do I just need to paint more slowly and carefully and consider light sources and maybe try zenithals and those kinds of things? Or because I feel like, because the adage is it's just practice, but I feel like I've been stuck for about 5 years just painting and not getting any better. And I've not been not painting. Do you know what I mean? So the argument of it's just practice, I think, is not actually the thing. Because I've produced a lot. I'm stuck. The benefit of your wisdom, oh crowd. Anyway, yeah, leave comments. But also, if you subscribe, this isn't going to be the video that drives subscribers, but you could subscribe. Consider joining the Discord where we can talk more. That'd be great. And especially thanks to all my members, the people that pay regularly for whatever this has been, especially Nightfall and Samuel Troth, who both subscribed at the highest tier. I'm going to try and make a Kill Team video tomorrow, folks. I promise. The balance date slate's come out and everything, but I just haven't done it. Alright, guys, I'll see you when I do. Cheery, bye. Bye.